Good day, viewers. Welcome back to Generation C, where we prove to you why Tuesday is just the perfect read to grab the zone and read it. My name is Michelina Vatisas, and I am your lovely host for Generation C today. On the front page, we have Mpho Katjiuongua, who is a dancer. So she started managing a group of 4 dancers under the name Disturbance. Now the group performed with local artists including Lil D, KK, Paradox and Wampusian, you name it. So that was the first step for the young enthusiast. But her heart was still full of plans. Now she believes that she is still on a quest to find herself, but so far she is on the right track. Mpho mentions that some of her highlights include performing in the Big Apple, being recruited on the internet to audition for the America's Got Talent. Wow, you go girl! Shout out to you! And appearing in an international dance teachers magazine after she won a video dance competition. So Winkler traveled abroad to study, where she completed her schooling at the United World College all the way in Norway for 2 years. So she later ended up in New York, where she studied dance performance on a 4-year scholarship at the Skidmore College, and she graduated in the year 2015. Now after graduating and having been abroad for 6 years, Winkler returned to her motherland despite opportunities to continue her studies in the United States. She mentions that she needed to reintroduce herself back here in the motherland as the Namibian way of life in order to establish her dance school in the society. How cool is that? So she has been building her brand in the land of the brave for the past 5 years. And yeah, so that was it from Mpho Katjiuongua. To read more about her, please read our page 1 story today on The Zone.
My name is Mpho Katjiuongua, and I am a professional dancer, influencer, social and creative entrepreneur. I was born and raised in Namibia, but I always say I am a world citizen because I spend a lot of time in the world. Since I was a little girl, I've always dreamt to be a dancer, and I have lived my life as a dancer. And here I am today at my own dance school, the Mpho Katjiuongua Dance Theatre. I teach kids from the age of 3 years old up to adults. I teach a class for adults called Dance in Heels. It is an experience that I define as an experience unmatched by any dance and fitness experience. So that is me. I am positive. I am a go-getter. I am a risk taker. I take many leaps, and I have many more dreams in my life, many things that I want to achieve, and I say every day is a little step towards achieving my dreams and my goals. Thank you for your support. Thank you for always watching my space. And support is something that everybody should always get, because without support it's difficult to hold ourselves up. And I've been able to achieve what I've achieved because of the support. When I'm down, when I'm lonely, when I am unmotivated, the support from everybody is what keeps me going, and that passionate fire burning inside of me. My story is one that I don't always talk about because I am positive. I always like to think of what I have achieved, but I have gone through a lot of trials and tribulations. I have made a lot of sacrifices in my life, and I have come to understand that suffering is temporary, pain is temporary, and change is the only constant. That is from me, Nikita Winkler. I hope to inspire. I hope to leave something, a seed, plant a seed everywhere I go.
on page 5, we have the feature, which is Onze Spoeg, a force to be reckoned with, where young protesters took to the streets to express their distress about sex and gender-based violence. Now, they read their petition in the 3 to 4 day protesting, where the government had to respond to the issues raised in the GBV petition. To read more about it, please buy the Zone and read more about it. Also, let's look at a few videos of the protesting that took place over the past week. We have more loaded, exciting stories, as I still haven't touched the sport pages, but please, I can't give it all away because you guys will not buy the Zone. So there are lovely images. We had the Inter High and so many sport events that took place in the past weekend. So please, as I said, buy the copy so that you can read about sports. Thank you, viewers, for joining me. See you next time, same place.
Good day, viewers. My name is Monique Adams, and today in studio I'm joined by Mpho Katjiuongua. I got that right, okay?
Yeah, no, perfect. There you go.
Head of fundraising and partnerships for the Global Shapers Windhoek Hub and the project lead for the Shape Skills project.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Okay, for our viewers watching at home, can you just give them a brief description of what Global Shapers is all about?
Right, so pretty happy. So Global Shapers is an international initiative that was started in Switzerland by the World Economic Forum. And the World Economic Forum is supposed to bring government and private sector together to solve world problems. But then they kind of realized at some point that you have all these people in these big offices, having these really intellectual conversations. But then you have this huge group of young people who are far more connected to the ground, far more connected to sort of tangible issues, and you need to get them involved. So what started happening is that all around the world, we started developing hubs. So essentially you have cities that have a hub, and essentially the hub is supposed to respond to the social, economic, and environmental issues in that particular city. And it's always people from the city themselves, so it has that local component to it. And that's what the Shape Skills project and the Global Shapers are all about. We love our city, we believe in our city, and we want to do something that empowers people and youth specifically.
Great stuff. So tell us about the process of establishing a Windhoek Hub, and what do you hope to see young individuals that's part of this project achieve at the end? Yeah,
so happily. So I think to start, so firstly to develop a hub, you have regional offices. So you have one for Southern Africa, one for East Asia, etc. If let's say you wanted to start a hub, you would contact the regional director and you'd be like, hey, this is who I am. I have a group of people who are really passionate about doing something. These are the ideas we have. And we think the World Economic Forum, the Global Shapers, is the best way to impact social change. They would evaluate, how many people are there in the city? How well structured are you? And that's all to do with how sustainable could the hub be in the future. And then you go through a little evaluation process, a bit of back and forth, and share quite a few ideas, because in many ways it's an organic thing. They're not trying to tell you what to do, but there is a framework, a governance framework that you're supposed to at least follow. So that's roughly how you started. I think in terms of, what we want to see, I've been with the hub for about a year and a half, and I've met some amazing people, like really amazing people who want to do a lot. But sometimes when you have an idea, you don't always know how to make it real. You don't know how to make it practical.
How to implement it.
And I have complete faith in Namibian youth. And it's more about how do we take their ideas and put it and package it in a way that helps them become real for people who really suffer. And in that sense, what I would envision is this sort of rolling of ideas and new people that come through the hub, and those that leave the hub become alumni and become supportive mechanisms for the hub, and continue to respond to as Windhoek changes. And to be fair, this is a pretty unique time because economically we're doing pretty bad. Jobs-wise, we're doing pretty bad. The last drought was pretty hard. So there are a lot of like issues that compound on top of each other. I don't think there's ever been a more important time for youth to be informed, connected, and have structured approaches to solving specific problems. And that's what we want to do. We want to help people identify a problem clearly and a way to deal with that problem that's sustainable and speaks to you as a person and with your passion. That's what's really important for us.
Yeah. Youth employment is one of the issues in Namibia. And in your views, how vital is it to drive for a generation of job creators instead of job seekers? How do we working actively to close that gap between the two? Yeah.
So just to emphasize, before coronavirus hit, youth unemployment was at 47%, which is ridiculous. That's almost every second youth does not have a job. Like that's, in my opinion, firstly, just alarming, right? And in that sense, that was one of the key points for the project that we'll get into just now. In terms of, emphasizing job, creating a job opportunity for yourself besides sort of looking for an employer, I don't want to underrate working for a company, because I wouldn't be where I am without the mentors and bosses that I've had that have guided me. So I don't want to discredit and say everyone should become an entrepreneur, because there's amazing guidance for certain people in certain histories. And I mean, not to say too much, but I mean, you having been part of the MUN process and the UN, and like look where you are right now, it does say a lot about having those connections. But you are right. And there's a bigger discussion about what is the future of jobs. And you're right that I think it will become more important for Namibian youth to be able to create jobs for themselves and to take your ideas and make them real and tangible. And I think there is an important element of that. And I think, sort of not to use too many buzzwords, but the fourth industrial revolution will emphasize that. And it'll also capacitate people, because there are more jobs that you will be able to do from your home, from your laptop, from your phone than ever before in history. And it's a bit of a difficult question actually to think about, like in Namibia, where you don't have, everyone doesn't have internet access. Not everyone has a really good smartphone. Not everyone has a laptop like some developing countries. So like, when is the time and how much should we emphasize those kind of jobs versus other kind of jobs, right? So it's a bit difficult to figure that out, and we're still thinking about that. But there needs to be a balance on both creating an employment for yourself and working for someone. But for me, the most important thing is to partner. And you can do that from either job perspective, and to meet people who have ideas that are different from yours. For me, personally, that has been the game changer in my career, without a doubt. And the Shapers helps make that more real.
Great. What advice would you give to young people out there who has ideas of starting their own business? I know it's difficult, and they're not really motivated to start, but like, what advice would you give them?
So I mean, I have to say, I have never started a business for myself. So I give everything with a caveat from my own personal experience professionally. But the one thing I would do is firstly to say that your idea should solve a problem. That's the very first point, because that's usually the selling point that makes any investor, any partner buy into your idea. The second point is you must genuinely believe in it. Like, you must be personally motivated for it. There was an article in Forbes a while back, and it's about like how to find your passion. But it's linked to this. So essentially they said the first thing you should do is take something that you're passionate about, an idea that you have, right? And write like 3 down. Then write a social problem that exists, right? And write 3 down. And then what you do is you map them and try to see where there's a synergy of the two. Where does your idea solve a social problem? Because that is a really strong source of motivation and energy, because essentially you're being driven by 2 different forces. And that really keeps you going, because one thing I can say is being an entrepreneur is really hard. You don't get rewards, and especially financial rewards, for a while. I have quite a few friends who took them easily like 2-3 years before they actually got financial reward. So in that sense, really be ready for it, and understand sort of the adjustments you have to make in your lifestyle. But find people who believe in you, and you'd be surprised. You probably can do more than you think you can. And you just need a drive that's strong enough. So I would say use a mapping system like that to make sure you find something that really speaks to you. and talk to as many people as you can. You'd really be surprised. Sometimes the idea you had doesn't solve the problem, but you find what the problem is just by discussing with people. And that's where, and through that you've met 10 different people who want to support you. So there's a nice like organic bit to it that I think people shouldn't underestimate at all.
But where do you meet these people? Like
honestly, people underrate just the value of calling up. So for example, I have an idea of creating a platform that links SMEs to retailers. I've just been calling, literally just call Woolworths, call Checkers, call ShopRite and ask them, hi, I have this idea. It's supposed to speak to this particular problem. Is this a need in your business? Is this a challenge that you face? Some will say yes, some will say no. And many of them will say, no, but I actually know someone who you can connect to, go speak to this person. I've spoken to 20 different people from 5 that I originally called. And literally that ripple effect just keeps going. It just keeps going. And in that sense, the only thing you need is time and airtime. And you just literally keep doing that nonstop.
And be consistent.
And very persistent. That's important.
So I know the Global Shapers community has a relationship with the World Economic Forum. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So I would say in many ways we are literally a baby of the World Economic Forum. So the World Economic Forum was started by Klaus Schwab in the 90s, and it was essentially supposed to respond to the lack of discussion and cooperation between private sector and government. And then in 2011, they kind of realized, as I mentioned earlier, that they just don't have enough youth voices. It's this kind of ivory tower in the sky of people who have businesses and and they're just not connected to the youth. And the challenge is that literally you don't have a relationship with the people who will replace you in the future. Right? So in 2011, that's when they realized they needed to create a change. And they started the Global Shapers community. And since then, it's just boomed. You have one in South Africa, Botswana, Zim, like you have them all over the world. And in that sense, it's really about, and the coolest part, to be frank, has just been on these calls, especially during COVID-19, of chatting to people who are literally just as passionate about you. The context is different, but they're just as passionate about you and they want to learn from you. And we were having discussions, for example, about reskilling, which we'll talk to about with the Global Shapers. And it's very different if you talk to someone in Canada versus Uganda versus Namibia versus South Korea. Very, very different. But what it helps you is to think about, even if your country's not there yet, this is maybe the needs my countries will have. So then we already start creating a link about, okay, this group of jobs will be valuable in the future, but maybe we don't have the capacity for them at this stage. So what can we do in the interim to help people get there? And in many ways, that's what Shape Skills is about and aims to do.
Great stuff. So how does one become part of Global Shapers community? And what are some of the projects do we expect from the community?
Right. So we have recruitment every year. And essentially it is, we'll have an open bid. We'll put it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. We'll give a set of criteria of what you need to meet. And then essentially you send in an application, motivational letter, CV, etc. And then we as the EXCO, we evaluate your application. Those that get shortlisted, you come for an interview, we meet you, we get to know you, get the feel of you, and then you get selected. And we do that every single year. And the point of that is not just to increase the number, but to increase the innovation in the team. And this year has been very, very cool. We got a really cool group of people that's been helping with the Shape Skills project. And that's been amazing, quite frankly. Definitely really, really amazing. And a pretty tough year for the new cohorts. We haven't met as much as we would have liked to, but it's okay. The connection is still there. And I'm trying to think about having a retreat where I do like a whole yoga thing. Not everyone seems to agree, but I'll get there. I'll convince them to get there. In terms of projects, we have the Shape Skills project, which aims to upskill Namibian youth, so to make them more market ready, more market competitive. We're also aiming to do a kind of Meet the Leaders platform, which is essentially we want to have sort of a series of podcasts and interviews with Namibian leaders. And essentially it's to bridge the gap between what sort of youth know about leaders and who are actual leaders in the industry. And it doesn't have to be people who've run companies for 100 years. No. It can be companies who started recently, like Lefa. I know the guy who started Lefa. He's a really cool guy. His name is Malkis. He's someone I would love them to meet because his story is more relatable to youth. Because he's still, Lefa started fairly recently. He's still in that phase, as opposed to someone, I don't know, who's had a company for 30 years. You're pretty far off. It's a different mindset. And then, of course, we have these public dialogue initiatives. So we had one last year about youth participation in the elections. I mean, obviously, local elections are coming up on the 25th of November. So there's an interesting discussion about that. We've had one about creating jobs with the American Embassy before. And it's really just to create that space for Namibian youth to go and see how, one, to think differently, to get new ideas, and again, to meet people and just network, literally.
Oh my gosh, I love this project.
It works really well.
Yeah.
And I just don't think we have enough networking opportunities.
Yeah, no.
I really don't think.
Yeah.
Because in other countries, you have these kind of like universities host these usual platforms where you have these lectures, then you have like a little brief, like a little brunch afterwards, whatever. And then you get to meet people.
Yeah, then you get to network.
And we don't always have that here.
Yeah,
and
it's really rare.
It is.
It is really rare.
It's guys like you who give like sort of a platform to invite people to like come and visit us and see the
I'm definitely interested. So being a part of it, it's like an 8 to 5 every day, Monday to Friday.
Yeah, it can be. Keeping in mind that you're working on the side, right?
Yeah.
It can be quite
So
quite
if it's someone
intense.
that's working that already has an 8 to 5.
Yeah,
Monday
of course,
to
we
Friday.
can. Well, I'm right now, technically I'm working. I came from the office now. But I think it also speaks to, I think, the future of how work should look like. Insofar as I think an employer, and I'm lucky that I have mine, but an employer should understand that as an employee, right, you have the relationship of, you know, I'm paying you for a service or a product or whatever. But you as a person still exist. Like, you have social issues that you want to address. You have a relationship with the community, etc. And I think there is a better relationship between employees and employers that gives employees freedom, right? In the sense that if you take an hour off in the middle of the day to do something like this, and you're willing to stay from 5 to 6 to catch up on that hour, I don't see the problem, right? Get your work done, but still have a positive relationship with your community. And we were having quite a few discussions about how the future of work could look like, and even companies themselves having more of a value system that speaks to addressing social issues, environmental issues, and valuing that. So a broad idea is like, if a company, let's say for example, sells product X, what is the impact of product X on its society? And making that part of the actual value of the company. So when you see sort of the value of the company on stock exchanges or whatever the case may be, does it account for its environmental impact, its social impact, its impact on people? And you account for all of that in terms of not even if it's shareholder price. There are a lot of buzzing ideas into it. And I'm not saying with the global shapers we're trying to push that, but we do recommend people to tell your employer. I told my boss before I applied that I'd like to do this. It matters to me for this and this reason. I would need a little bit of flexibility. It won't affect my results. And it hasn't. And she was like, yeah, sure, it makes a lot of sense. It sounds absolutely great. And it helps you grow as a person. And that is good for the company in general. So there are a lot of win-wins if you really think about it. Yeah, very
both
much
sides.
So.
That's really true. So how does the project prepare young people for the job market while also making sure they're prepared for times like COVID-19 where there were job losses?
Yeah. So this, just to clarify again, the Shape Skills project is essentially to upskill Namibian youth to be more market-ready and market competitive. So essentially we teach people a set of skills that we think are valuable for the job market. And we pick people that have sent in an application where they emphasize we need some help, right? We've achieved, maybe we have an undergrad degree or something, but we don't, for example, always know how to package an idea. We don't always know how to market ourselves. So we have about four clusters, I think. So it's marketing, communications, and diplomacy, project management, which I lead. You have entrepreneurship, and then you have IT and web development, right? So those 4 clusters we teach, right? And we're partnering with the UN in Namibia to do that, and they've been absolutely wonderful. Walda's been like an absolute champion. If anyone's ever looking for someone, Walda Mouton is like the greatest. So it's a wonderful Walda. So we teach that, right? So we teach them how to do this. I did the project management workshop, for example, this weekend. And it really is about not just having it on your CV, but to get people thinking. Right? For example, when we did project management, it wasn't just about taking an idea from concept to pilot, to rethinking the pilot, to actual implementation. It was also about, if you implement a project, how are you going to measure the change that you achieve? Is that measure something that someone else can understand? Are you actually solving the problem that you aim to solve, or maybe not? Right? Because there were quite a few initiatives, and we had a lot of conversation about gender-based violence, and a lot of the participants had ideas in that space. And sometimes we want to solve the big issue of gender-based violence or unemployment. But most of the time, you can only solve a part of that. And that's okay. That's really okay. Because in order to solve the broad things, you need partnerships. You need to meet more people within the space of trying to solve that problem. And that's how you instigate change. You specialize in something while be connected and knowledgeable on other factors. And in that sense, what we want the participants to leave with is, one, a greater sense of confidence and self-belief, a set of skills that they didn't have before, that they can put on their CV, but even that they can demonstrate in a work environment. And then we want to also help them, and one of our shapers does this really well, is to help you in terms of how you actually prepare for either starting a company or applying for a job. So that's about how do you actually write a cover letter, how do you actually write a CV, and structure it in a way that is easy for someone to see. Because I mean, some of us in the shapers community have been privileged to be on interview panels. And really, it's very, very different. And I can remember it's a lot of pressure to be on an interview panel because you need to go through a lot of applications quickly and effectively. So you need things that stick out to you. You need what someone says to really grab you quite quickly. And there's a way to structure a CV that gives that to you very, very quickly. And that's a lot of what we do. So it's really to help you on the soft and hard skills side, to make you more market ready. Obviously, you know, the Namibian economy is in a bad place, and the mid-year budget is coming out today, so we'll see, you know, how much money does government have for certain parts. But there's no doubt we are at a worse employment level than we were, and that's everywhere around the world. So the discussion is like, okay, we're in this bad situation, the economy is in a pretty bad place, COVID-19 is still around, it's still very real. There are second waves happening in Europe, like nobody's business, but to be fair, they have winter, which changes things a bit. But how then, as a Namibian youth, if you are unemployed or if you graduated this year, what is the best way to make the job market appeal to you, right? Because there will be few people who can employ. So everyone will have the basic skills. Like if you apply for like, I don't know, a communications job, everyone will have communications on their CV. Everyone will, right? You have to, it's a basic. What else do you have that makes you a more whole-rounded package? And then even if you get into the interview room, how do you express that? How do you make someone understand that IT and web development might be something you literally don't have in your company, and I can link that to communications. I can help you develop an IT and web system that emphasizes and strengthens your communication assets. How do you tell someone that and convince them of that and think about that beforehand? Because that's what gets you in. It's not, most people who apply for a job have the basic skills. It's the extra bit. You're like, this is why I wanted you specifically. And that's what we want the project to do. That's really the confidence and package we want people to feel when they leave the Shape Skills project. And also, I mean, obviously having accreditation of the UN helps a lot. And so far, if you've been part of a UN program and you took the initiative to improve yourself, that I cannot underrate at all. Maybe the last thing I'll say is that as the World Economic Forum broadly, we're having a really big discussion about reskilling and upskilling. And I think it's one of the things that I don't think has ever been as important as it is now. Whether it's the fourth industrial revolution or something else, the world has never changed so quickly. So your ability as a person or even as an organization to have new skills, competitive skills, innovative skills constantly is we really underrate. And it's the difference in many ways between some developing countries and developed countries. And I worry sometimes about the gap. Because developing countries right now, they are running forward, right? And that's developed countries. Developing countries, we're still thinking about how to get some basics right? And I respect that, that's not a problem. Poverty is a major issue, unemployment is a major issue, gender-based violence is a major issue. But we need to think about, well, as we get these right, what are the kind of people we're developing? And do they have the skills to take things forward? And that's something I think Namibia definitely needs to have a chat about. Like, where are we on the skills pendulum? And what skills do we need? Like, for me, there's a very clear discussion that you need to have around that. And that's what we hope Shape Skills does, you know?
I totally agree. He dropped a lot of great gems.
So I do like to talk quite a bit.
No, really, I'm really, really intrigued by this whole project. It's my first time hearing about it, and I'm like looking forward to do research on it and just read more about it, and maybe hopefully be part of it. No,
everyone is definitely welcome. We will open for a platform, so for sure.
So your social media pages, where can they find you? Any website? So we do have a website which is Windhoek Global Shapers Hub, so you can literally Google that and you'll find us. And then we are on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and you again can search Global Shapers Windhoek Hub. And you'll find us. Great stuff. Sure. Once again, thank you so much, Mpho, for joining me in studio today.
Thank you for giving the opportunity.
I learned so much. Hoping to see you soon again somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have given us a platform, and we will definitely try and, you know, come back again.
Yeah, great stuff. Looking forward to that. Okay, guys, there you have it. Generation C. Mpho with me today. Hope you guys took a lot from this. I know I did. See you guys next time, same place.
Take care.